At Command Code, we are going to do something absolutely crazy. We are going to be launching a $1 per month coding agent plan. Yes, completely unheard of, but I'm very excited about it because in this $1 plan, you will be able to use three top open source models: Kimi K2.5, GLM5, and Minimax 2.5. So as you can imagine, I'm pretty excited about it. We have been working quite hard on this, and we are making our pricing plans a lot more transparent. So in just $1 per month, you will get about $10 worth of API usage on these open source models. And we have worked with our providers to make sure that we are getting the highest quality models in raw form, not quantized models or whatnot. So they have excellent tool calling ability. And personally, I have been using Kimi K2.5 a lot. It has essentially replaced all of my Claude Sonnet usage at 4 times more speed and 25 times less cost. So let that sink in, right? And obviously, there will still be the Pro, Max, and Ultra plans. So for $15, you'll get like $30 in credit. For 100-month plan, you'll get 150, and for 200 per month, you'll get $300 in credits. If you go to docs and you scroll down, you can probably look at our pricing and limits, and you can see all the models we have. We have basically figured out that in $1 plan, for which you are getting about $10 in credits, you can obviously buy more credits on the API cost, on demand credits. Like if you are a power user like me and you run out of these $200, $300 credit plan, you can continue to buy open source model usage on demand if you want. But we have figured out that you will probably be getting around 12,000 requests across these three models, the open source models, in just the $1 plan. To do this, this is the math we actually came up with. In our open source models, you will find GLM5, Kimi K2.5, and Minimax M2.5. If you ask me, my favorite is Kimi K2.5. It's an excellent model. If you are a user of Cursor, you know they have a model called Composer, which is built basically on top of this. A lot of people say that it's like a fine tune of Kimi K2.5, but raw Kimi K2.5 is really, really good. It is as good as Claude Sonnet 4.6. So you have to massage the prompt a little bit with it. Like you have to be a little bit more specific, but it outperforms Sonnet for me personally because of the speed. I'm able to run so many experiments in parallel with Kimi K2.5 because, well, I am getting like 3 to 4 times faster model, right? I can run 4 different experiments, get to a conclusion in the same time that Sonnet or Opus is absolutely slow would take, right? And compared to Opus, it is like 25 times cheaper, right? So I'm also saving the cost. I am working really, really fast. And this makes me really excited. A lot of developers I talk to nowadays are wondering if they can replace Claude or GPT models with open source models. And it has a lot of pros in it. Like, obviously open source models are free and they are really, really fast. Like I have been using Kimi K2.5 and it just blows everything out of waters. I am able to create 4 times more work. I am able to run a bunch of experiments and get to the solution very, very quickly. I feel much more openness with that. I think I can think of something more as well here. We can probably call it experiments. Okay. One of the things that I want to do is I have a sandbox and command code can run in that sandbox. And I can get it to do a bunch of different things, but I'm a little bit afraid that maybe it will go in some weird loop. It will start doing some weird stuff on random internet and it will get my accounts banned, right? This is a very common fear that I actually hear about from developers as well when they're using anything from Claude and GPT. Because these are commercial models and they're not open source, they get to decide what is good, what is not good, right? I'm not saying that you go nuts and you do something weird, but I have seen one too many cases where a developer was just trying to fix some security bugs and their account got banned, which was like a false positive. And the outcome for that was that they stopped experimenting a lot. Even if they don't know, they don't realize it, that freedom is just not there when you are using closed source models. But when you're using open source models running with ZDR, which is zero data retention, you can run any kind of experiments freely without actually using some models. On the other side, open source models have a bunch of cons as well. Like a bunch of people actually worry about quality. Are they good enough? There are so many open source models. How do you decide which one are really good? Like we have the ability at Command Code to offer any kind of open source models. And a bunch of coding agents are doing that. Like there's open code and you can use just about anything with open code. I kind of tend to not like it because what they are doing is they are doing the integration, which is good, but they're leaving the decision on a random developer. They're basically roughly saying that you decide what models you want to use. And that is a lot to ask for from a developer when every other week there is a new open source model dropping. And it's very hard to judge which one is good and what can actually replace all these commercial models for me. So the quality is a major concern, and the format is also a major concern, where maybe you find a good model, but you will see that it will struggle a lot with tool calling. No matter what formats you ask it for, prompts or the overall experience of using that model would really suck. This is sort of something where we work with our providers to figure out how we can improve at least the top 3 open source models to get them to the quality of Claude Sonnet and GPT 5.4, right? And that's where the stability part comes in. This is where, you are wondering that how can I actually make sure that this model is doing the thing I want it to do in the long run. This is sort of where I think the idea of taste comes in, where you can use a coding taste from command code, which you might have built using a commercial model like Claude Sonnet or Opus. In using that taste, you can basically steer the open source model the right way and run it for longer running tasks and make sure that it is still going to come up with the solution which will follow what you wanted it to follow in the first place. And I'm going to build a CLI right now to show you what this looks like, right? The other thing is, Sayab here mentioned that what about requiring a powerful machine? So there are no good models available that you can actually very easily run on your machine. Even the smallest one that I know of would require somewhere upward of maybe 512 GB of RAM, which is probably gonna cost you around, I don't know, depending on the time and month, $10,000 to $20,000 in your machine, right? So if you go for a maxed out Mac Pro, I was doing the math, I think about $19,000 worth of machine, then you can probably go and run some open source model, which is even not good enough. These are giant models and you need a really powerful machine optimized for all of these things. If you use a smaller model, it will not have a good quality. If you use a quantized model, it will probably suck at doing the things like tool calling or whatnot, let alone the stability of that model. So if you need like 512 GB of RAM, we go to apple.com. So let's go with the maxed out Mac Studio Pro, 128 GB of memory here. And you are already up to like 5,000, right? So I think there is another offering from Apple, but it's definitely they just stopped doing it. I think they are still doing it in M3, 256. Yep. RAM is extremely expensive nowadays, so I think they just absolutely stopped doing it. I think there used to be a 512 GB RAM option here, not anymore. So you would need 2 512 GB RAM Mac Studios, and then maybe you will be able to run like a very shitty open source model. And the amount of cost of this setup would be more than like $19,000. Like even at 256, you can see it's about $10,000. So you'll be paying like $20,000, and then on top of that, you will be paying for the time, the configuration, the setup, and the power that it is going to consume, in the cooling system that you'll have to build around it. It is just not worth it at the moment. So if you are even thinking about running a good enough open source model, you would need at least a terabyte of RAM to run it on, or maybe you're gonna cheap out and do like 512 GB of RAM, which is probably with the Mac Studio going to cost you about $20,000. The entire setup of running it and figuring out the cooling system around it, or figuring out how to do NVIDIA GPUs and the entire thing by yourself, is not going to be worth it. So if I were you, I would stay away from that, right? And this is one of those things that we have been trying to figure out. So with command code, you get a bunch of things that can fix all of these problems, right? So if you're using command code, you can build your coding taste, and you can build this coding taste while you're using better models, top-notch models like Claude, Opus, or Sonnet. Taste is like a skill, a project level skill. It watches what you do and it records what is most important for model stability, right? So once you have built that taste, you can swap out and use open source models and kind of match the performance of Claude, Sonnet, or GPT 5.4. This is what I've been doing for about a month now. And this has required a lot of work. This has required working with a bunch of providers to figure out how we can serve quality open source models, how we can make their tool calling super good, and how we can create a subscription that is cheaper than what you would rather pay in an API cost. And that is how we have ended up with a pricing package, which is $1 per month Go plan. It allows you to use top 3 open source models, optimized, not quantized, raw models, just optimized for really good inference. And obviously you get a lot more of these with bigger plans. Like, obviously if you're coding daily and you're using a lot of AI for it, I would probably go for the, $200 per month plan. This will probably give you more than 100,000 requests with open source models, and about 50,000 to 100,000 requests with premium models like Claude Sonnet and Opus and whatnot, right? So this part is what I'm really, really excited about. Let me actually show you what this looks like in practice. And by the way, one thing before I go, you can go to our docs, scroll down to pricing and limits, and you can read all about how we came about all of this, how we calculated the included usage. You're still getting a lot of usage on our taste model. The taste 1 model is practically free. We have basically figured out that the typical request that goes through our system has about 1,000 input tokens and has about 180 output tokens. This is again a typical request, and this one also has like 50,000 cached read tokens as well. And this translated into the math that you are seeing here. If you split your Go plan usage between GLM, Kimi K2.5, and Minimax, you can potentially get to this amount of requests with your usage in just $1 per month, right? It's unbelievable, right? Obviously, if you are building a lot on a daily basis, this multiplies by 1,000 when you start doing the same with open source plans. So all the people who are feeling that, Claude is now degraded, they are probably serving a quantized version of Claude Sonnet or whatnot. And when you're hitting your rate limits a lot, that is because the subsidy that Claude was giving to everybody is kind of coming down, crashing down very, very quickly. You can again read all about the models we have, the top premium models and the open source models on this page. Now, a little bit about me. I have built a lot of projects. Even before AI, I had shipped more than 400 open source projects. But right now I have like more than 1,000 repositories, and I have more than 300 really, really good projects that are all open source. And if you know anything about me, you know that I've been building a lot of CLIs. So when building a lot of CLIs, like Corona CLI to track COVID data, and GW3 CLI to build Git work trees the way I want, it has a bunch of nice, handy little workflows that makes using Git work trees really, really easy. Or Chartly CLI to render charts in your terminal, and a bunch more. And while building all of those CLIs, what I've done is I've ended up building my CLI taste, which apparently looks very, very simple, as you can see here. This is what a coding taste looks like. As you build up a project with command code has a taste one model that looks at all of your prompts. Also, kind of from there on, it starts to figure out what is really important, right? And then it tries to be very, very less wordy, and it builds an entire preference graph for your coding. So for example, it has seen me use pnpm as a package manager. That's why this is here. It knows I love building CLIs with TypeScript. That's why it's here. And I specifically use tsup for building CLIs for different packages like CommonJS and ESM modules and everything. I just use that as a build tool. That is why it is here. None of this was written by me. I can definitely write this by hand, but my entire taste is automatically managed with command code. So let me actually jump in and let's build a very simple CLI to see how all of this works. So what I've done is I've created a new folder here. I was just building something silly last night, and I think we can just continue over that. What I'm going to do is you should probably go to command code, make an account, and just download command code using this command. Since I have already installed it, I will just probably just quickly run it. Command code is very similar to Claude Code or any other coding agent that you have seen. And once it is installed, you can just do cmd and it will get started here. And if you do /models, you will see that these are the models we have so far. We have 3 Claude models, Sonnet, Opus, and Haiku. 3 OpenAI models. I would probably never use something like 5.3. I don't think that's a good model. This is weird because a lot of people really like it. I just don't. I think 5.4 is much better. And then we have open source models, GLM, Kimi K2.5, and Minimax, right? So I'm going to recommend that you use Kimi K2.5 because it is a Sonnet-level model. So let's get started with it. So here's the thing. Right now, as you can see here, the taste learning is actually on. If I say something, and obviously you don't have to say things like this right away, but I'm just giving you a very simple demo that if I say something like, I always prefer using TypeScript, so let's start building a CLI with it. The moment this goes to our taste agent, you will see that it will start learning things. It's starting with npm in it, which is sort of fine. If I do the Control T to show you, you can see that our learning agent has already learned that I like to always use TypeScript for projects, right? And all of this is being stored transparently in your taste file right here. This is automatically being managed. So you can think of this like a skill that is being built automatically for you. And this skill is meant to be for this particular project. So as you and your team continue to build this project, this skill will grow and grow. So if anybody new joins your team, this skill will help with alignment, attention, stability of any model that you use. Even if you are using a very silly, dumbed down model or a very small model like Haiku or Minimax, just because you have really good automatically managed skill that we call taste, that model is going to outperform a simple plain usage of any model, right? Because it will try to write code the way you do, right? It will make the decisions the way you do. That is how we have built our coding agent. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm probably just going to quickly delete all of this. Let's do this. We also have a taste package, which is basically an alias of cmd taste command for now, right? So this taste package, what it can do is you can do npx taste. And if you go to my profile on command code, you can see that on mls/CLI, I have my CLI taste. And as you can see, you can just copy this particular taste from here, right? So going back here, you can just say npx taste pull my username and CLI, and this should be able to pull my coding taste for CLIs into your project. There you go. So now my coding taste for CLIs is here. Here's the base taste file. It is referencing to my CLI taste here. And this is the same thing that we saw there. And now as I build this project more, this taste will continue to adopt and change or whatnot, right? So I'm gonna make sure that I have, this is a Git repo, so we can version control it. I'm gonna make a comment, taste, or we can just do init, right? So we know that this is ready. This is a handy little shortcut I have. This is basically going to create a very simple feat init git commit and push it to main. Now we can start command code. Now I'm going to explain it what we are doing. Use my taste for building CLIs and build me a CLI that will help me track time for my next live stream. I live stream every Wednesday at 11 a.m. PST. This CLI should be able to tell a human version countdown of how long it is before we can go live, right? So it should be a countdown based on hours, minutes, with any time zone. So 11 a.m. Pacific time zone is the time zone you should remember for every Wednesday. We should also try to figure out if we can add something like, auto detection of time zones for anybody who's running the CLI. So I just entered all of this text in there. Let's see what it does. It is using my CLI taste, as you can see. It is also reading a skill I have for clack, which is a CLI package that it is going to use. I'm probably going to allow it to do a bunch of things. It has figured out that it is going to build the CLI with TypeScript, create a countdown logic for 11 a.m. PST, and it has also figured out that it would need some ASCII art banner. Again, these are the tiny little things that command code has watched me do. It has observed me create ASCII art before in a CLI, so it knows that with quite a lot of confidence that I prefer a welcome banner in my CLIs, right? So it's doing the things that I would have done. From the get-go, it is adding TypeScript, tsup, vitest, clack, pico colors, aura, and commander. These are all the packages that I care about, right? Due to my taste here, command code, irrespective of what model you are using, has already figured out that I prefer TypeScript. I prefer to build my CLIs with tsup, test them with vitest. I use clack prompts a lot because if there is some sort of questions that I have to ask from a user, there are a bajillion prompts libraries out there. I love what clack does. So this is my taste of coding a CLI. I don't generally use chalk because pico colors can be much more performant than chalk, which is why for adding colors to the CLI, it has already picked pico colors. Aura is for creating spinners, and commander for creating the CLI argument handling or whatnot. This might seem very simple right now, but if I were to change a bunch of things in the CLI, my taste for the CLI will auto adopt, right? So if, for example, another team member starts to add something new to the CLI and tries to add some form of colors to those prompts, command code is not going to use chalk because it would know that the preferred taste for this particular project is pico colors. And since all of the taste is actually right here in a plain file, when they send a pull request to you, you would be able to jump into that pull request taste file and see what are the taste level changes that they have done when creating that feature. So let's see what Kimi has done here. So it has built a bunch of things. It is super fast and it is almost done creating that CLI. It is actually done, right? Let's see what is in there. So it has created a lifetime CLI. There's a source folder, all of the things here. I think I should probably quickly run pnpm install, pnp install, or pi. That should just work. It has figured out time zones and a countdown timer. Okay, the code seems fine to me. And tiny little things here. Let's find out when Ahmad is live streaming CLI to find out, right? A couple more things that you will see as, like, for example, I always prefer to start with 0.0.1 version. And you will find this in my taste somewhere. And this is something 0.0.1. There you go. Start projects with this version instead of this. I never wrote this. This is something it saw me do, and that's why it is here. A couple of things that I don't like is that it has created a new folder in here. So I'm going to probably change that. A couple of fixes. You've created a lifetime -CLI folder here. Instead, I think you should have just put all of that in the root instead of creating that folder. And also, I like to see purpose-built files. So all the commands that the CLI can run should always be in a commands folder, and each command should have at least one file. If that command is doing a lot of things, then it should have a folder, and all of the files should be in that particular command name folder. Okay, so let's see if it can go ahead and fix this. I'm 100% sure it's also probably going to learn something about my taste here once it is done processing all of this, because the taste agent is running in parallel. Okay, so we now have all the things here. Commands folder is here. It is probably currently moving all those commands there. I don't like the lib folder. I don't know why that is here, but we'll see what it is trying to do. Okay, there you go. You just learned that you have to organize commands in a commands folder, right? This is going to be super useful. Going forward, when I create a new CLI, it will just know that complex commands should have their own subfolders or whatnot. It ignored everything else, but picked up this is a taste that it should have learned. Let's see what is happening back here. For all the date time handling, can you always use datefns, right? So I edit the word always, so I just to make sure that this goes in the taste file as well. But even if I would not have, it would just have added that with a little bit less confidence in there, right? While building the project as we speak. So while it is doing the things that I asked it to do in the previous prompt, it has also queued my last thing, the datefns thing. So I think we are probably going to see a bunch of changes here. Sayab is asking, do you have separate developer coding style across different stacks, like PHP, Node, so they don't interfere with each other? So I think this is a good time to explain how taste works. How does taste work in command code? So I'll be honest, we have had a bunch of iterations on taste. I coined this taste term before there was any concept of skills. And now there is a concept of skills, and skills are basically rule files that can go out of date, they can go stale. But taste is also like a skill. So it's worth discussing what is the difference between all of this and figure out how taste works, right? So the big things you need to know is the taste is per project, not per developer. It is per project. So any project you're part of, when you start building it with command code, your taste will be built for that project. If that project is in JS or PHP or Ruby, or what have you, right? That taste will be built for that project in that particular stack, right? And then the other thing is that it is transparent. So you can always see the taste files, which are, markdown files. So .md files. You can always add anything to these taste files. I would recommend adding just one-liners, not like skills where you dump a bunch of random things in it. However, I'm not stopping you from doing that though, right? The other thing is it is auto-learned, right? It is basically continuous learning. So you don't have to do anything. You just have to prompt, edit, delete, or do whatever you want. Like every time you send a prompt to command code or you edit some file, we see that as signal for your taste, right? Right now, we have decided to not go heavily into the edit part of it. So most of the times we are just reading into what you are sending to your coding agent, because that's a signal. For example, you just saw me that I told my coding agent that I want the commands to be in a particular folder, in a particular directory, and that is what it has gone ahead and done. It's created a commands folder, and all of the commands are now in that particular commands folder, and that is what it has learned. If I were to show you the diff, it has actually learned that I should always be using datefns for date and time handling. It has learned that CLI command should have a dedicated commands folder. So this is, again, improving automatically. And I can decide to delete anything from here, like maybe something that is not relevant. Like, for example, I am 100% sure I wouldn't like to have like a 150 pixel ASCII art. On this one, this CLI, I will probably try to make it like maybe 80 pixel big, because that would be too big for this type of CLI. So it is continuously learned. You send in a prompt, and taste one, the model we have, uses meta-neurosymbolic AI architecture, and it converts most important things from that prompts. And it also considers all of your current taste, all of your entire session's history, to figure out how you are steering that taste. If you decide to do something and then you went in a different direction, it will also rewrite a bunch of your taste files. And since it is all transparent, you will see what and how it is getting adopted. And since all of the taste files are transparent, you can see what is being learned in your taste files, how is it changing, and you can decide to only keep the things that you feel like are most useful, and you can delete the rest before committing it to main, right? So TasteWin will auto edit, manage all of your taste files, right? And the moment it sees that you are doing a bunch of different things, it will start to create more folders as well. Like right now, as you can see, it has created CLI taste folder, which has a taste.md file. What I'm gonna do as an experiment here is I have this coding taste thing that I've been building as a skill. I call it this, right? I've been slowly building my coding skill of sorts. As you can see, this is just a static rules file, a skill file, but this can go stale as well if I don't update it. And not every project would use something like this, right? But just for this particular demo, what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna quickly throw all of this here, and I'm gonna say I prefer this coding taste. And just this is again just a demo, and you will see that it will learn a bunch of things from this. And it will also obviously go ahead and refactor a bunch of things, because I have a bunch of things about types. I don't like to have classes or OOP patterns. I prefer pure functions. I don't like to have switch case stuff. I don't like to have else. I prefer using if guard clauses because then the code is very easy to read, maintain, and test. If everything is, if this is happening, then do this. If this is happening, then do this. Switch case and nested loops becomes really, really hard to test and obviously to read, and your coding reviews become even slower, which is a big bottleneck right now. So it's probably going to learn a bunch of things and it's going to fix this. Let me see if it did. Probably ignored a bunch of it because we had a bunch of things in the CLI already. Everything seems fine. Instead of going up there, how do I test it? Always write or readme with precise instructions. So it's probably going to go ahead and write a readme for us, and it's obviously going to learn that this is something we need. This is one of those things that I've seen Kimi not do well. I just deleted there since we are already in the root and all the files are in source there. So fix the readme. Before writing the readme, make sure you explore the code base once. We have an explore tool. Right now it's exploring it, but I think this is something that our taste agent will also pick up, that before writing the readme, it should figure out if it is doing it right. There you go. Explore the code base before writing files like readme to understand the project structure or whatnot, right? So this would have fix everything here. Yep. Let's go ahead and build this. I'm not gonna use, always prefer to link locally with npm, not pnpm, but always prefer to use pnpm as the package manager. So this will this is another thing that I like. I don't like to put global packages in the pnpm directories. I'm weird like this. Npm links work better for me, so this is fixed. And it is also something that it has learned. So as you can see, as I am building this project, I don't even have to worry about teaching my coding agent what I'm doing. My coding taste is getting developed right here in this particular project, and it's going to help everybody on the team. I can switch models. I can get more people to work on this particular project, and my taste will actually help steer this model or any model, any future model that I'm using in the right direction, where it is almost like if I were writing code, this is how I would have done it in the first place, right? So let's go ahead and, I don't know, link it. And what was the thing? The other thing we have to do, lifetime. Let's see, if it actually works. Demo time, it generally doesn't work. Okay, it is detecting the time zone. I'm gonna go with this. So next stream is going to be April 22nd. That is correct. And that is 6 days, 22 hours, and 10 minutes away, right? And can I reset the time zone? Can you add a command to reset the time zone so I can check different time zones? And can you also add a -, status flag so that I can use it in command line status line or something like that? So add these two commands. And looking at this thing here, all the library related code is here. All the commands are here. It has just created this reset status. Time zone was already there. And countdown was here. Maybe we can reduce the size of this giant big ASCII that we have. Yep, this is too big. Always prefer to have like a 50 pixel ASCII welcome banner. You see how fast this is? By the way, this is unbelievable. Kimi is unbelievably fast. So I'm gonna do something like this. Live. One more thing. Always make sure you have a top level root level folder for the CLI where you are storing the config from Cindersaurus config package on the current time zone, so the user doesn't have to pick the time zone again and again. One thing I don't like here is the spacing here that we can fix. The things that I want shown to the user when they run lifetime CLI is it should say that Awais goes live 11 a.m. Pacific time every Wednesday. And then it should read based on your time zone configuration for your time zone, mention the time zone. It will be this time and date for you. And then it should say you can configure the time zone by running this command. So let's fix the output this way. Okay, dokie. Oh, now I see what is going on. I should probably add a script for dev. It's already there because it might have seen that so I'm running it. So it is building it again and again. Now, if I do lifetime, it will just pick specific time. Oh, MLS, that is not correct. Maybe my audio model ended up doing weird things. Awais. I will just probably put this here, do this. Now, as you can see, it is not asking for the time zone again because we are using the conf package to store the configuration. I just forgot to ask, where is it being stored? It is being stored in this particular top level directory, which is probably really good. Also, what happened to the banner? It's not showing. And I can run a help command here to see what is in there. Time zone reset status. Let's do status and let's check the help for status. Specify time zone output format. Let's try long. Status format long and format short and 5 minutes. Okay. And what is minimal? Oh my god. Okay, maybe somebody can use it. So I'm gonna pass this screenshot to it. As you can see in the screenshot, I'm running live stream and I don't see any banner. By default, I should be able to see like a 50 pixel small banner that says live stream in ASCII. Just for the sake of this live stream, I'm actually probably not reading a lot of what it is throwing at me, but you get the idea, right? I see the issue when you run live stream without any flags. Banner is not there, so it's probably fixing that now. Should be about fixed. What happened? Make the ASCII banner max 50 pixel tall. Is it though? You know what I can do is I can run another version of command and I can ask it to review everything in the working directory of Git. And this will give me a really good review. I see there are local changes. It has figured out. Now it's doing the complete git diff. Now it has understood what I'm trying to see or what I'm trying to share with it. So overall, there are no tests. Let's add tests. Or I can actually, go ahead and ask it to fix all of this right here. These are good suggestions. All of these should be dev dependencies, unused parameters. Can you go ahead and fix all of these and also make sure that the ASCII banner is 50 pixel tall and update my TS because that is what I prefer now. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I think you get the idea. Now, this is a separate context and it's going to go ahead and improve all of our CLI based on the things that it has discovered are wrong. It's the same model, but the review command is like a bundle skill, which is really, really useful in figuring out. I generally, whenever I'm reviewing code, I generally look for these scores, and it's some things like these very quickly are very easy to discover because, or coding models can be a lot verbose and nobody has time to read all of this. Nowadays, when you're shipping a lot of code quickly, you basically need quick decisions, and this becomes really, really helpful. Awesome. Yeah, that's pretty much about it. I'll probably let it run for a while and fix a bunch of other things in it as well. It is still saying this. Maybe our build routine is messed up. Where is this coming from? This probably. I don't know what is happening with my console log. I'll probably check it out later on, but it should be fixed. At least my name should be fixed. So what we have done so far is we have built a CLI that can tell when I go live. And the point of building this entire thing was to, I think Kimi is actually struggling with resizing this thing. Is it because of the taste file? This is something new that I'm just discovering. Let's see. ASCII 30 pixel. Yep. I think this is something that Kimi is struggling with, right? So how about we test GLM5 on that? I'm going to do Alt P and I'm going to do GLM. Let's go with that. Fix the one we have. Also move it to a new file. Why is it looking for undefined in the file? That is so funny. When you're using open source models, you will see a bunch of things like this. Yep, I think I hit my quota on the beta tier I have. This is on me. You can just ignore this. I'm probably gonna do another model, Minimax. There you go. And let's see how it does. Minimax is good enough, not great, but let's see what it comes up with. I've not used this model a lot though. It is using my CLI test. That is good. So the harness is working. Let's see if it can figure out and make the ASCII smaller. It is still huge. Holy shit. Are open source coding models struggling to resize a simple ASCII banner? This is this is really new. It's working really well. It is still huge. Can you make it much more smaller and minimal, but still make it feel like an ASCII welcome banner? Oh my god, this is not okay. I'm gonna stop it here, and I'm gonna go to Haiku. Let's see what Haiku does. Haiku is still not able to do it. So what we have done so far is we have built a CLI that can tell when I go live. And the point of building this entire thing was we saw how it uses taste, and we saw how the taste kind of evolves if you start doing different things. Like, for example, include a small minimal ASCII art as a welcome banner now. And it has a bunch of thoughts on the ASCII thing now. I think this is what it actually learned, that use the shadow font or whatnot. And I think I can just show it to you easier in the riff. Always write a precise readme for testing and whatnot. I don't know if I want this. This might be good for open source model, but for really good models, maybe we don't need this. Store CLI configuration in a top level root folder using config package. As you can see, all of these are the new things that it learned. Like, it learned that, I use npm for linking packages, not pnpm, even though I prefer using pnpm as the package manager. So as you build your projects, you will see that command code will build the taste for that project. And you can think of taste as a live skill for that project. It's a skill of building that project further. It has your preferences, your styles embedded into a very transparent markdown file. And as you build more with whatever you model you're building, you will see it encode more and more learnings. And you can decide to keep or remove some of the learnings that, for example, I don't like this README learning, so I'm probably just going to remove it, right, before I commit, because I know in future projects this is going to be a thing that I don't prefer, right? Because README is written once, so I don't need to remind it again and again. This taste, a live skill for your project, attached with an open source project, can help you move really fast. It can help you build the code the way you want, irrespective of the model you are using. Obviously, every model has its limits. Like, if you're using Opus or Sonnet, they're really smart, or GPT 5.4, but you're also paying a lot for it. And they're also spending a lot of tokens in figuring out what is in your head, right? Because they're not mind readers. They cannot read your mind, right? But if every developer on your project is using command code, most of those preferences that you agree with are getting encoded in your taste files for that project. So whenever any developer on your project starts building something that your coding agent has seen before, it will start using your taste to do things the right way without anybody on the team having to manage your taste files. Anything that you start changing, for example, imagine if I were to change something big here, I'm going to probably ask it to, can you commit? And from now on, for this project, always prefer using meow. If I do something like this, it will change my preference in my taste from commander.js to meow, which is a different package, right? So the next time anybody comes in, if they say something like, add this flag or add this particular command to your CLI, your coding agent, based on your taste, will instantly know that I should be building this with meow specification, not with commander.js specification, right? You can manually do this, but you only have so much time, right? And also, if you try to use LLMs for this, they dump out this giant piece of shit, pardon my French here, where, learn everything you see in this project, and they will print out things like, the tree structure of your files, which I bet goes tail right at the moment after every single new PR. Right? In your taste files, you will see there is potentially nothing there that is stale, because these are being automatically managed. The moment you tell any AI model any conflicting information, you are basically asking it, ignore what I'm telling you and decide on your own what you feel like is the right thing. And at that moment, it is going to do the statistical average over the entire internet and do whatever it wants. And then a lot of developers will have this weird experience of, why is the code so sloppy? Why is it not doing what I wanted it to do? I have told it a bunch of times to use pnpm, and it is still defaulting to npm, even though you will have a bunch of agents.md or claude.md instructions. You will see your coding agents completely ignore those instructions, most probably because in the entire context, something has gone stale and they are not learning anything from you. So this is one thing that, you will feel that command code picks up on, automatically manages your taste for you, and helps everybody on your team, accelerate writing good code in the same taste of your best engineer. So that's pretty much about it. Just like that, you will see taste plus open source model be really highly performant in building any projects. And by the way, I have not even spent $1 so far in building all of this, because I'm right now running on a $1 plan to demo this to all of you, that even a $1 plan could be very good on command code if you are using open source models, which are 25 times less cheaper than big models like Opus or whatnot. and can almost match the capability of Sonnet-level models. So this is it. If you use command code, it will build your coding taste. It is a full-fledged coding agent. It's not just only going to learn your coding taste. It will allow you to have multiple ways to interact with it. It has a bunch of amazing dev tools cooked in, a bunch of skills like the review tool. You should be using that a lot to make sure that the code that it is writing is really good. Again, does a lot of persistent memory things and whatnot. It has the entire skills and MCP stack cooked in. I would stay far away from MCPs though. I don't think MCPs are a good thing to use. They eat up your context and they're super slow, and generally you shouldn't be using an MCP. And you will also see that you can easily share, like you can do a /share in command code and share your coding session with anybody on your team. And you can obviously share your taste with anybody on publicly or privately with your team, just like you can share a GitHub repo. So that's pretty much it. Really excited to be launching our super optimized Go plan, $1 a month, which includes $10 in credits. This is not just for the first month. It is, really cheap plan. So everybody can start using coding agents and everybody can start figuring out how they can build up their taste files and use cheaper open source models to do a lot of agentic engineering. Really excited to get this live, and hopefully you'll have a lot of fun building new projects with command code. Use your code for good. Peace.